Whither shall I follow, follow, follow? Whither shall I follow, follow thee? To the greenwood, to the greenwood, to the greenwood, greenwood tree. Welcome back. You should know me by now. My name is Maddi, and I am the pagan next door. First, today, a huge thank you to all our new subscribers. We've jumped from 10 to something like 30 subscribers almost overnight. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I know this is part 5 of our project to make a sacred space bag. You can find links up above me somewhere up in the heavens that will bring you back to the beginning of the project and also to the beginning of the channel. If there are still questions that you have about anything, we're working on some knitting projects for right now, although we will explore other crafts. Please drop me a line down in the comments, ask me questions, and I promise I will answer as many as I can. Alrighty, so what do we have in store for us today? Well, first, we answer the burning question that Neko asked, the cliffhanger. What happened to the color on the bag? Second, you're going to discover what a nostepinne is and how to use one. And then we'll continue on with our bag where we get comfy and cozy with Alder and Raven. So, get cozy, grab a cup of tea, and come on along. Dun dun dun! I have literally come to the end of my rope. I know I don't have enough to go back the row, so I'm going to stop here and I'm going to attach another ball of yarn this same color. Let's take a closer look. I knew one was darker than the other, but it is a very noticeable difference. So I have to decide what I'm going to do with that. I think because this is a sacred space bag, I am going to rip my work back to the gray and I'm going to rework this section just in this darker yarn because I know I have enough of that. So a little bonus, just if you ever have to rip something back, here's what I do. Yeah, I just rip away until I'm down to my last row. I'm going to take my needle and as I pop each stitch, I'm going to grab the loop it came from. And this end one can be tricky because they twist around. You can see that one was twisted. But this is my end loop. I'm going to scoop them up purlwise. So I'm going to scoop in here. My tip is ready. As the blue yarn pops out, I'm at an awkward angle, but you can feel it. You can feel it pop. If you can get in here and then pull it, that's even better. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll grab the neck of the stitch and pull up so I can see this little hole and pop it back. One more to salvage and I am back at my knot. So interesting thing about square knots, they're actually not too bad to take apart. If I grab each color and pull in opposite directions, I am free and clear. This is looking good. I can pick up with the other yarn, but I have a mess. What do I do with this? I am going to be using my fountain pen as a stand-in for what's known as a nostepinne. Nostepinnes are actually a little longer than this. They're wooden rods. Sometimes one end is carved. They're beautiful, and they are meant to wind yarn. What I like about them is because the pen or the nostepinne, and you can use a Sharpie marker, I like them because of the thickness. I wouldn't use anything too skinny, but if all you have is a pencil, use it. It leaves a little bit of a hole in the middle. So the beginning of the yarn is not quite squashed, You can, if the tail sticks out, you can pull from the middle and it forms what's known as a cake. So let's see how this works. I'm going to put my thumb on my tail so it doesn't go anywhere and wind a couple of times straight over it, just so that it holds the tail in place. Now, working on an angle, I'm going to wind and turn, wind and turn. So I'm laying each round next to the one before it. And you can see what's starting to happen is I'm getting a rounded shape with a flat top and a flat bottom, kind of like a cake. I can continue on with this. It's slow, but it's accurate, especially if you have a small amount of yarn. You can see I already have a ball, but it's flattened. If I slide it off, it'll sit nicely. It won't really roll around too much. If you have a lot of yarn to wind, you might want to try a ball winder. Okay, I've changed my angle here a little bit. I want you to see the edge of the table because this funny looking thing, if you haven't seen one, is a yarn winder. This is the one from Knit Picks, not sponsored by them, just love this particular model. I like the angle that this wheel sits in. So how does it work? Well, it's got this little clamp that goes on the edge of your table. And my yarn is going to look a little crinkly because I am unraveling a project in order to reuse this yarn. It goes through this little tension loop and then through these two notches. I like the lower one to have the end, just so that it grabs with the first turn. Turn and so you can see I've gotten to the end. Before I slide it off, I'm going to take my label so I can remember what it is and that it's a no dye lot yarn. I'm going to hold it against the upright part and slide my yarn onto it like a spool. This way, I can keep track of my yarn and what it is. The nice thing about the cake shape is even without anything in the middle, it'll sit there. It doesn't roll as easily as a completely round ball, and it feeds beautifully. So, yarn winder or nostepinne, it keeps your yarn untangled and easy to store. So this is as far as we've gotten. I've turned it so the top of the bag is to the top. You can see our garter stitch border on top, a row of eyelets, and the body of the bag. Continuing on, we're going to make the next section of garter stitch, which is going to be double the top because the bag folds under. So instead of needing 2 inches, we're going to need 4. 2 for the front and 2 for the back. So let's get into it. Gray over, tuck it down into that valley, bring the blue, gray over again, and grab 2 and 2 and pull. This next section, being straight garter stitch, knit on both sides, is pretty easy to get into. So we can start our journeying, our imram, right away. So take a deep breath, and as you enter the realm, We find ourselves on the banks of a small stream, and we find a crossing place with 9 stepping stones. With intention to reach the other side, we step on the first stone, the second stone, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and onto the other side. As we continue to work, take a couple of breaths on this side. Find the place where we first met the salmon, and as it breaks through the surface of the water, call out a greeting. It happily swims over to see what you're up to. Show them the progress you've made so far, and tell them that you are here with the intent to continue on this next section. Any suggestions from the salmon? You bend down and pick up a hazelnut and toss it to the salmon, who is now quite comfortable with you and catches it on the first try. I do have a suggestion, they say. Go back, say hello to the boy and the horse, and I think the boy may have either a message or will introduce you to someone new. Let me know how it goes when you get back. All right, toss the salmon another hazelnut, fill your pocket with more because we're going to meet new friends, and start to walk toward the stepping stones and then inland to the place where we first met the boy and the horse. As you come to that crossroad, there they are. The boy waves and the horse tosses its head in greeting. Head on over to them, show them your progress, tell them you're back and you're working on the next section of your project, offer them a hazelnut, and you hear a voice. Who's that? Sounds like a crow, a cawing. The boy starts to laugh. I see you've met our new friend. Well, I'm going to leave you in their capable talons because they have some other friends for you to meet. But you really should check out your little grove and see how much it's grown. So, with the exchange of a couple more hazelnuts and a wave, you notice that up in the trees, there is indeed a large, shiny black bird. And the bird seems to be calling directly to you. Okay, so call out a greeting and let the bird know that you are going back to your pretty new grove and invite him along. To your surprise, he comes, and you notice that he is actually pretty large, bigger than a crow. This must be a raven. So the raven hops along and glides along with you, and you come to your grove, and you are surprised. Magically, your little seedlings have turned into saplings. They are definitely trees, young but upright and about waist high. The vines that you might have grown are starting to weave and coalesce into a circle. They too are starting to grow upwards, supporting each other. And yet, they're still entryways into your circle. So marveling at that, you realize that your friend the raven is now really getting rather excited and hopping around and definitely trying to get your attention. Hello, Raven. I can see you're trying to get my attention. Do you have something to tell me? Are you the new friend the Salmon of Wisdom was mentioning? And because this is a magical place, the raven rearranges his feathers, kind of shakes out his wings, looks at you and says, I thought you'd never notice. Raven, what can you tell me? I'm here, and look, this is the project I'm working on, trying to create a bag, a sacred space for my special tools. Well then, you really need to come with me. Lead the way, Raven. So the raven takes flight and stops, giving you a chance to catch up. And he brings you back toward the original circle of the 12 different trees. And he alights on the one and says, this is the Alder. We're going to spend some time with Alder, and we need to go to where there are more of them. So follow me. So with that, you take off following the raven, and you come to yet another little stream, and the raven says, we need to be kind of quiet here, because the man that's sitting in meditation by the side of the water is Bran the Blessed. Bran's name actually means raven. Bran is half of a pair of twins. He has a sister named Branwen. Branwen means white raven. But it is Bran here that we meet. Without breaking his concentration, he looks up for a moment, notices you, and nods, acknowledging your presence, and he looks over at the raven, and you sense that he has given the raven consent and basically told the raven to take over from this point. The raven notices your sort of puzzled look and says, "Let's walk a little ways so we don't disturb Bran, and I'll tell you about this." So you go a little further into this grove of alder trees and find a place where you can sit and lean against one of them, and the raven perches close. So you offer the raven one of your hazelnuts, and the raven says, "There is a very close connection between me and Bran. You might say I am his spirit guide. You might say I am also Bran. We share the same name, but obviously we're a little different. Have you met your guide yet? If you have, you notice that they are approaching. How'd they do that?" "Oh, guides have a way," the raven says, "of calling to each other. If you haven't," the raven says, "well, today's the day. Let me see if I can help." And the raven fluffs its wings, kind of has that concentrating look. And after a little bit, the raven starts letting off a series of sounds. You know it's speaking, you know it's communicating, but you as a human have no idea what he's saying. But within a few seconds, you hear a rustling among the trees, and there, standing before you, is someone new. Who are they? Are they human? Are they animal? Bird? Insect? You may have to look carefully if they're tiny. So call out, "Hello? Who are you? Have you come to speak to me?" And you hear their voice. It's a voice that's very calm and familiar, yet strange, and they speak the words you've been meaning to hear. "I am your guide to these realms. I've been with you, but it's nice to finally formally meet you. You're not afraid, you're not surprised. You realize it feels like meeting an old friend that you haven't seen in a while. There's something very comfortable and familiar about the energy of this guide. So you thank them and ask their name. What is it you like to be called in this realm? And notice the answer. It may not be a name you're familiar with. Whatever it is, repeat it back to verify. Did I get it right? They'll let you know. They'll either correct you or say yes. Before you start to say, "And my name is," you hear them laugh. One of those deep throaty chuckles. "Oh, I know you. I've known you all along." Now that you've met your guide, you can ask them to help you anywhere along the journey. The raven is still kind of looking at you, looking at the guide, and you ask, "Raven, do you have some wisdom to share?" And the raven says, "Once again, I thought you'd never ask." "Look around you," says the raven, "and feel the energy of this grove, this alder grove. As you're working, your guide comes to stand beside you and puts one hand on your shoulder and the other on the alder tree closest to them. And you suddenly feel the energy of all the trees in the grove. You can feel their roots reaching down, down deep into the earth, down into the past, down into the fertile soil, down where the deepest water flows. Drink in that energy for a little while and feel it as it comes up through the ground, through the bottom of your feet. Pull it up into your being, that rich potential, that cleansing, earthy, grounding energy. And as you're breathing it up, you kind of come to the middle, the trunk of the tree, and you can feel it strong and sturdy and supportive, feeling the rays of the sun and the breezes that blow, very, very much in the present. It is as strong as the needles you're holding that are creating the stitches of your bag. It is here in the moment, it is aware, it is bridging the past, and with another breath, you look up to where the branches are reaching and waving their leaves up toward the sky, up toward the heavens, up toward the future, up toward all that potential, reaching and waving and tingling with the new growth at the tips of every tiny branch. Breathe that into the potential of everything that you can become, everything that you can manifest, everything that you can create. And as you take 3 breaths and connect all of these realms, the roots and the trunk and the branches. Your guide slowly lifts their hand from your shoulder, and although you're no longer feeling connected to the grove and the trees, you still feel the tingle of that energy, of that potential. And you may find some new projects flash through your head. Oh, all the beautiful things. Now your guide reaches downward and extends an arm, and the raven understands this gesture and hops aboard. Once more, your guide places their other hand on your shoulder, and the raven hops aboard. You can feel the weight. He's a big bird, but not so heavy to be uncomfortable. You can feel the strength as his talons grip your shoulder, supporting him. There's pressure there, but no pain. They don't cut you, they don't hurt you. They're just enough to support him and the connection between you. And as he settles in, you feel his warm, smooth feathers leaning on that spot where your shoulder and your neck meet, and he spreads out the other wing, and you feel as if you could just lift off in flight with him. And in your mind's eye, you do. Follow me and I'll bring you to what has been called a conspiracy or an unkindness of ravens. That's a terrible name. Humans thought we nudged our young out of the nest too soon, so that's what they call it. But we have a tale to tell. Before we get there, you should measure your work. Let's see where we are. Let's get to the body of the needle. Tuck our starting line under, and we're right at about 2 inches, so we're halfway there. Continue, because this is the part that will fold under. And we follow the raven to a meadow. And in this meadow, there are a lot of ravens. Why are they all here? They've come to tell you the story of Bran. His legend says that he went to rescue his sister after a starling told him that she was being mistreated. A big battle occurred, and he was mortally wounded. So being a magical being himself, he said to his companions, "I can't go on. You're going to have to cut off my head and take it with you." They didn't find this odd at all, and they did exactly what he said. They cut off his head, buried his body, and traveled with his head back toward home. When he got there, he said to them, "Okay, you need to bury my head on the top of White Hill and face it so that I will always look out to see if any danger is coming. For as long as I'm on that hill, you'll be safe, and we won't be attacked, and Britain will survive." So his companions did just that. Now, the legend was known, and it probably is why, as we come to but more modern times than the times of legend, the Tower of London was built on that very spot. And there have always been ravens kept there, the raven being Bran. And to this day, the legend continues that as long as the ravens are there, Britain will not fall. There are 6 or 7 of them that are kept, and they are kept by a raven warden. So that is something that you can explore. That's some story, Raven. Yes, it is. So if you need strength and protection and an ally, which, since you're working on the bottom of your bag, is where you probably will need the most strength, don't overlook protections and the magic of ravens. We can be most helpful. Why, I thank you, Raven. Let's head back toward your grove and stop by the Alder grove on our way. You feel the raven spread its wings, and you glide, catching little wind drifts, and find yourself back in the Alder grove. And again, once you feel like you've landed, your guide reaches out, offers an arm, and the raven hops off your shoulder and back onto their arm. And from there, they alight and land in one of the alder trees. You continue to work with your guide standing quietly at your side. Suddenly, you hear that cawing of the ravens again, except there are 2, back and forth and back and forth. You look up, and one raven is still in the tree, but now there's another one right in front of you. Oh, I know who you are. You're my guide, aren't you? Yes, I am. Time to measure. So you measure and discover that you are just about at the 4-inch mark. Do you do that often? Quite. Why? Because the Alder and Bran have the energies of the oracle of the teacher. and I will assume many forms to teach you things. Today, I took you on a flight as a raven and taught you the story of Bran. You may call on him at another time when you need his help, but in the meantime, it's time for us to leave this grove now, for you to go back to your side, and we'll meet again. I have much to teach you, and there's much for you to learn. As you gather your things, you glance up, and your guide is looking mighty human again. You'll get used to it, they say. With a hazelnut of thanks to Bran's raven, you take your leave, thank them for what they've done for you today, and you and your guide walk back. And as you come to your grove of trees, you mention that you're amazed at how much they've grown, and you hear that chuckle that you'll come to know quite well. That's because I've been tending it for you. Well, thank you. You continue on, and you come to where the boy and the horse are. And as you thank him for introducing you to the raven and offer him some hazelnuts, you turn to offer some to the horse and discover that your guide has now become horse and is chatting merrily away with the boy's horse. They both accept some hazelnuts from you. So you and the horse, your guide, continue along after bidding them farewell, and you kind of know what to expect as you start to hear the sounds of the stream. I know what you're going to do. Of course you do. So you continue to where the salmon of wisdom is leaping up from the stream, tossing the hazelnut, and sure enough, you hear the splash you expected to, a little behind you. And as you turn, up bobs a second salmon, but by now, you could almost swear it winked at you. You know those eyes, and you know that energy. Toss a couple of hazelnuts to your guide, and they wish you a safe journey back to our side, to the mundane world. They know you'll be back. You can show the salmon of wisdom how much you've done, and say, 2 more sections to go, as you start to take your steps across the stream. The first stone, and the second, and the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth. And as you step silently onto our side, present mundane world, you realize that you've now been making this trip across the water much more easily than you did when you started. Glancing across, you see your guide back in human form, waving farewell, and with a little wave from your side, take 3 deep breaths and return to the present. I hope you had fun with that. I always love when my guide changes shape and takes me on all sorts of journeys. And we are more than halfway done with the bag, so I'm telling you, it's going to speed up now because you know all the parts that we have to do on the way back. We just have to do them and then put it together. So I hope you'll stay tuned. I hope you come back again. Thank you to our new subscribers. Tell all your friends to come and knit along with us, and I will see you next time. To the greenwood, to the greenwood,